Okay, hi everyone. Hi Expat Explore community. We're back again. We haven't been here for 2 weeks, so I know this episode is highly anticipated. So yeah, this is episode
You had a break
6.
last week for your birthday.
Yeah, oh yeah. Episode 6 of On the Road with me, Vic, Luke, Brandon,
Hi.
Matt.
Yay.
Yay! And you may have noticed we have an extra face down in our screen today. So we have a special guest joining us today, and we have Emma. So Emma is the Mishap Queen, so it was only appropriate that she join us. We love you, Emma. We love your stories. It was only appropriate that she join us for this week. Actually, it was Emma's question when we first started doing this. She wanted to know about our mishaps. So yeah, we've asked her to join us this week, and she has said yes. So here she is. So she's going to introduce herself when she tells you her story. But a lot of
I mean, I wonder if Emma, when you asked this question, like you didn't think you'd be the one on here sharing your mishaps.
I know, now I have to hold myself accountable. I was just like, let's do it and find out all your thoughts. And now I'm here. I'm joining.
I know, and you know what? I'm so jealous because we're all in different parts of the world, and you and Matt are actually isolating in the same country. But is it true that you guys, because you're in different states, you actually can't meet up, eh?
No.
Yeah, we no Victorians allowed in Queensland. Our borders are closed, especially to the
There's also restrictions as well, you know?
Yeah.
Well, we're allowed to roam free now, but yeah, they are coming back in.
We kind of are, but we just do it anyway here. So.
Yeah.
It's probably more likely that I could visit Luke than I could get to Queensland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Well, you're welcome
really?
anytime.
Let's all go to England. Let's all go visit Luke. Speaking of not catching up with you guys for a couple of weeks, we've had some really cool news this week about this new initiative, eh? So we need to catch up on that, and
Yeah, definitely.
maybe you can.
Exciting times ahead with
Yeah.
some tours
Yeah,
locked in, but we'll get
mention
to
that at the
soon.
end. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So let's crack on. Let's get straight into our stories. Now I'm going to go first. And then we can take turns and have a little laugh at each other. So I think to be honest, we were dreading this episode a little bit, weren't we? And that's maybe
A little bit, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah.
But let's just announce at the beginning that we are all human. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's in the sharing of our mistakes that we make each other feel human, and everyone else feel a bit better about their own life experience.
I know, and
It's
it
also
was
how we learn from each other's
I think
mistakes.
you come out of it as well. Like you can be like, I made a mistake, but I'm gonna fix it, or I have fixed it. Like it's all good.
Yeah.
Yes, I will put my clothes on. No.
I liked how I could go through my mistakes and like list them and try to decide which one was the worst. So there was
Pretty. Would you say it's a pretty big list, Vic?
What?
Those things happen, like your brain almost like mentally blocks them out, and then you're like, oh yes, this did happen to me.
That wasn't a nightmare. Oh.
Okay, so very quickly, I'll set the scene. I was on a tour down in the southern part of France in a place called Carcassonne, beautiful medieval walled town. And we were staying in this really old heritage building, and it was a beautiful building with nice rooms. But because it was so old, it had only one elevator that had been added like much later, and it was tiny, so it fit like one person in it.
So like every hotel in Europe.
Yeah. Was it smaller than the elevator in Montecatini?
This was
No way.
particularly bad. It had those double staircases going up, so you really had to walk up far, and you can only imagine like getting the bags up to the room. So we were having quite an early checkout the next morning, quite an early departure. And I wanted to have breakfast, and I didn't want to be rushing around. I was up on the 3rd floor. It was like 3 double staircases to get there, so it was like 6 flights. So I really didn't want to bring my bag down the stairs. So I got up super early, checked out, put my bag in that elevator, and went down to the bottom. And I put my suitcase in behind the reception, and went off and had breakfast. And I had a really, really nice driver. I mean, we always have nice drivers. He was really, really nice to me. He would always make sure that my bag was on the bus. He would load it in for me, and he would just take care of it. So yeah, that morning it was behind reception. Everyone came down. Everyone managed to get down the lift, have breakfast. We got in, and we were driving to Barcelona that day. We were driving via the tiny little country of Andorra. So we're driving up these really big windy, you've probably done the road, you know, all those big windy roads heading up into the mountains. And my bus driver, he turns to me and he says, Vic, I didn't put your bag on the bus. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, you're kidding, funny joke, right? And he was like, no, I'm actually serious. Like, I did not put your bag on the bus. And he was like, I didn't see it anywhere. I thought you must have put it on. My heart sank. I was like, oh my goodness. I left it especially behind that reception. So we were like maybe 1.5 hours driving to this journey that was going to take all day. We weren't going to get to Barcelona until the evening. So it was just awful for me. I had nothing, like literally nothing apart from the clothes I was wearing and my 2-liter bag. And it was a long tour. It was like a 35-day tour. So yeah, big disaster. The way that I fixed it, so just very quickly, found out that it was about 300 euros to get a courier to go across a border. So luckily this tour actually came back into France and went to French Riviera about 5 days later. So I just managed to survive 6 days in Barcelona in the French Riviera. No swimsuit, no evening wear, no nothing to go out, walking shoes, anything. I mean, I did obviously have to go shopping in Andorra, which is great, shopper's paradise. I was able to pick up a couple of things, but it was just a nightmare. Anyway, they delivered my bag by FedEx to the hotel in Nice for much cheaper. It was about 60 euro. But it was a disaster, and I felt like such an idiot. Like I could not believe I had left my whole suitcase. Oh, and I was even contemplating like going back on a train the next day to pick it up if I could somehow, and it was a nightmare. It was really.
It's amazing how like when this has happened, like the amount of ideas that come to your mind. Like I can get a train there. I'm gonna fly there. Maybe there's like a truck going past that can somehow collect it and drop it there.
That's
Is it
kind of amazing race to
circling
collect your
around?
bag.
I know, and I didn't want to like tell everybody what a stupid thing I'd done. And I just,
It's like, but oh, Vic,
they're
that
like,
tomato
Vic,
sauce stain on your t-shirt has been there for 3 days now.
it was horrible, and I felt so stupid. I got my bag came back, and I was so happy to see it. But you know, of course, I had no toothbrush. I had just nothing. So, anyway, that's my mishap.
Well,
so. Let's not talk about
I'll
that
make
one
you
anymore.
feel a little better.
Okay, I've never ever left my bag behind again after that.
I was thinking about like all the mishaps that have happened, and I was trying to find one that doesn't make me seem super incompetent.
Just a tiny bit incompetent.
Well, I touched on it last week as well, and I'll tell you the story of when I forgot someone's birthday, or not so much forgot, but mistook someone and whatever. So what happened was the tour started that morning. So it started at the Novotel in Greenwich, and I have my passport list, and I had everyone's names that had birthdays on the tour highlighted, because that's just the way I remember. So when it comes up on the tour, I remember. But this is day one. So I realized that day one we had a birthday. So I won't mention any names, but I said to her in the morning, as soon as I met her, I saw the highlighting. So I was like, cool, it's your birthday. Hey, happy birthday. I hope you're going to have a great day. This is going to be the most amazing day. We're going to Paris today. This is going to be awesome. Right? So, you know, I've hyped it up all day. We get into Paris. We do the city tour. We get to dinner. And then at dinner, I think to myself, well, there's something we can do that's kind of special. So I went up to the restaurant and I said, hey, that girl that's sitting over there, the second one from the left, it's her birthday today. Okay. So I told the restaurant, I told her name, and I said everything. And so what happens is the restaurant comes with a cake, and they start, you know how they turn the lights down and everyone starts singing, and they do it in French, they do it in English, and they bring champagne and all kinds of things. So it's quite a big thing. So I stand behind her and I give her the plate. And she looked up at me very, very, very curiously, but didn't say anything. But then I thought, have I mixed people up? Have I chosen the wrong person? And anyway, so it all happens. And I think, no, I'm confident. It's definitely her. I went through the passport list again, and I made sure. I was like, yes, that's definitely her. And then after dinner, we went to get on the trains, on the metro. And as I'm handing out tickets, she came and said to me, it wasn't my birthday, and it all started to crash down. And I was like, oh no.
Oh.
I looked up, and then I saw the lady whose birthday it actually was, and I looked at her, and she smiled at me and laughed. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I've done this. Anyway, the whole group found out really quickly. And we're trying to get the metro home that night. So in Paris, it's a really long day. At this time, it's probably 10:30 at night, almost 11. We're trying to get the metro home. And this is at the time that the Notre Dame, after the Notre Dame had burned. So the metros going from that area were all over the place. So what we did, I got so flustered because I'd forgotten this birthday and I felt so bad that I ended up not really taking care of the group that way. And I looked behind and half my group had disappeared because they'd taken the wrong turn. So I wasn't thinking, and I was and I'd completely lost them in the Paris metro system. And some of those stations are incredibly complex. It's like
ridiculous, yeah.
It's worse and worse. And then we got up. So half the group are getting, they're tired, they're jet lagged, and all they want to do is get home. And they don't know how to get home yet because I've given them, metro maps and I've talked them through it. But Paris is complex, and at the metro was a mess at that time. So it just got worse and worse and worse. But eventually, we got back to the hotel, and everyone was there, and everyone was happy. But it just.
I love that story, Brandon. I can just imagine being the lady whose birthday it was, watching you.
What?
Did she say anything to you later on, or?
Yeah, she did, and I actually celebrated her birthday the next day. We did it at Plus, so we celebrated her birthday up in Montmartre. So it was probably a little bit better anyway.
Oh, that's good. She got 2 birthdays. So.
Yeah,
the other girl got 2 birthdays because she probably already had her birthday in the year.
Yeah, so she ate the cake and had the champagne and
she ate the cake, she drank the champagne.
Funny.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, true. But I wonder what the lady was thinking whose birthday it was. Like, she might have thought it was that girl's birthday as well, but why isn't he giving me any cake?
I think that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, funny.
Well, Brandon, you're not the only person to make mistakes. That's quite clear. We'll get on to mine now. It's not too bad. I'm sure got lots of mistakes out there, but this was the first one that came to mind. Also has to do with another form of transport, not the coach that we comfortably use. And it was on my first ever tour through Scandinavia when I worked for another company. And I'd already done a training trip, so I'd sort of been through it already, but there's, you're still new and you get a bit confused about things, and I said something I shouldn't have said. We were getting the ferry from Denmark over to Sweden, and we pull into the bay. I go through all the paperwork. I mean, there's a lot going on with that. You want to make sure you do that correctly. We drive forward. We're allowed on the ferry. Drive on. I give them some idea of some of the amenities. They can get a good coffee. If they want to pick up some supplies, there's a good shop on board. There's the castle from Hamlet out on the left as well, Kronenberg Castle. So I gave them all these things that they could do on the ferry, and someone's like, "Oh, Matt, how long is it?" I was like, "Oh, it's like an hour." I was so adamant it's like an hour journey.
So this is from Denmark to Sweden.
Yeah, we send them upstairs. We lock the coach. I walk up. I grab a coffee. I'm waiting for my coffee, and there's a doo-doo-doo. Please return to your vehicles. I was like, "Oh, what?" And I'm like, because it comes in quite quick. There's the Nordic countries, much like the Germans, they're very efficient. Like, you've got to get back on board, and you've got to get off because that boom gate's going to come down, and you've got to get off. So I kind of scramble and try and find some people. Like, guys, got to go downstairs. Well, we get downstairs and the boom gates come down. We've got to drive forward. I'm missing like half my coach. They're all still like up on the top deck. They're in the shop buying cases of beer. And we have to drive off without half my group. thankfully, there was a bay that we could park into as we drove off the ferry, and I just had to watch them slowly trickle down the gate, walking off like with these very confused looks on their faces. Matt, you said it was like an hour. I was like, oh, it must have been a faster ferry this time. I don't know.
You were on
The captain needed to get some.
Yeah, you were on the express ferry on the 2-kilometer distance from Denmark to Sweden.
You can literally see it in eyesight. It's literally not that far. I just pulled an hour out of nowhere.
Oh, that's so good.
It was an hour.
Oh, Matt, that's funny.
All was good. We got everyone back on. It would have been a nightmare if people had just stayed on board and had headed back.
Gone back to Denmark.
That would have been a big problem, but we got everyone back on, so it wasn't too bad of a mistake.
That is a long drive, though, up to Stockholm, so you wouldn't want to be waiting around.
Oh no, that's all went up to Oslo. It did a turn there, but it is that same ferry that we catch on next time. So
okay.
I'm all over that now, guys.
Yeah.
I'm a Northern Explorer. I know you've only got 20 minutes. Okay, I know that now.
Oh, great. So now we've got our beautiful special guest, Emma, who is going to tell us a funny story. So we're all excited to hear this, Emma. So
my name is Emma. I'm, as we said earlier, currently residing at home in Australia, in Melbourne. So a bit like most of us here down in the Southern Hemisphere. This is my first winter in a while. So yeah, very much missing Europe and missing being back there. But chatting with the guys about some of the stories that they have has made me feel very happy. And like Vic said, I am known for my mishaps, both personal and professional. Personal ones may have been on tour with me when I've injured myself, broken or dislocated sort of bones. I've left sums of money behind and had to find them in German service stations. Lots of different things that we go through as to leaders. But this one, I think, just like the rest of you guys, we all have tons of mishaps with this one. Yeah, it sticks in my mind. It was my first tour for expat. So like most of these guys, I did work for another company for 2 years, and I did a lot of work in the Greek islands. So I'd done this same route around the islands so many times. And when I started for expat, they used a different company. So we used a lot of locals on the mainland, and then kind of on the islands, passengers were given a bit of an orientation, and they would go on the ferries on themselves. But expat decided, because I came on board and I had some experience in Greece, that they would put me on and see if I could tune up the tour a little bit, add a few things, find some new restaurants and drivers. So it was in my supposedly capable hands, and I was told that I had a special VIP on this tour. And I got down to Greece and I met a lovely passenger, much like many of you guys come on our tours, and she'd done 8 or so or something, and she knew Carl from South Africa. So I was like, oh, this is obviously the VIP. Great. She was a lovely lady. And I assumed that this was her. So we had a great time around the mainland, did lots of the archaeological sites, and we spent days in Athens, and then we were coming to the island. So it's a very long ferry journey from Athens to Mykonos, and like I said, I'd done this quite a lot, but always in the morning on my previous company. So we'd get up super early in the morning, and it was 7 a.m., so it was light, whereas this time it was in the afternoon. We got on the ferry from Athens at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then as we were going on our ferry, it got darker and darker. And I sort of asked the conductors, what time roughly do we arrive in Mykonos? And they gave me a rough time, and I checked our tickets, but anyone who's been to Greece knows Greek maybe time is generally far out there. Of what's saying, and I'm really stressed. Like I said, it's my first tour. I'm working on figuring some stuff out. I'm calling some suppliers on these islands to try find some day trips for us, and I'm sorting everything out. And I look at the time, and I said to the sort of gentleman on the ferry, is this us at Mykonos? Like, we're on time. How crazy is this? This is a great start to my day. It was quite late at this time, also around 9 o'clock, and he sort of gave me a bit of a nod and said, yeah, off you go. So I get my group down, and on the ferries, just like Matt, I'm getting down there. Thankfully, I did have my entire group, but sadly, I got us off at the wrong island. So I got everybody off, and we get to the port, and I'm kind of looking around, and I'm like, don't recognize this port, but it's dark. Normally I'm here in the daytime, so look for some kind of bus. You know, we have a pretty big bus. There's 45 of us or so. No bus. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, still kind of walking up and down this port. Maybe it's a different port. There's 2 ports in Mykonos. Maybe I'm somewhere else. On the phone, and the lady who was meant to pick us up in Mykonos was like, Emma, your ferry's not due here yet. Like, you haven't arrived? I am, because I'm standing here. I turn around, and my group is running back to the ferry with their luggage, mine included, and like hollering me down to join them. So we're running up. We finally get back on. And yes, I realized that, yes, in fact, I was off at the wrong island.
Oh.
Little did I know, though, that the VIP that I thought it was not. The VIPs I had was Carl's parents. So one of the owners of our company was on my ever tour with my brand new job, and I'd just taken them off the wrong island.
Oh my God. And you got back on the ferry?
And,
Luckily, you got back on.
we got back on the ferry.
That's insane, because they normally just drop and then go.
Tinos Island. I couldn't believe that we got back on, and we got off at Mykonos, and the kind of running joke was a few people had lost something, like there'd been a phone lost, there had been a passport lost, but the joke was that I managed to lose our island. So thankfully I had a fantastic group. I was obviously very stressed, but yeah, thankfully it was a happy end to the story, and we enjoyed our few days in Mykonos, and yeah, weren't stranded on the tiny island of Tinos in the Greek island.
That is so lucky. Imagine if the ferry had pulled away. I don't
Yeah,
know how you
Probably
could come back from
and
that.
And the Greeks don't screw around at those ferry changeovers. They're like, get
No,
off,
and also-
get
so
on,
I-
and off they go.
Shut. So I actually managed to so I thought nobody knew. Carl never knew. His mum and dad didn't rat me out, which amazing. Thank you very much for that. We had our end of season party last year, and we had to get up and tell the coach a little bit of like a funny story that happened to us in our season. And I was thinking, all right, am I gonna like out myself? This is pretty funny. So I stood up and I was like, so this thing happened to me this season. I have to tell everybody. And everybody was cracking up, and our ops manager stood up and was like, I knew that was you. Like someone, yeah, they had
Someone had.
a local provider in Greece had told our office, but they were very kind and didn't tell my name. But I was one of only 2 people who was down in Greece that year. So it was a pretty fair odds to figure out which one it was.
Oh, well done for fixing it. So I reckon the guys on the ferry must have looked over and saw your group going, why is this such a big group on Tinos? And they must have waited, because normally they just take off, yeah?
Yeah, they're just like they're taking off, and they haven't even got like the things coming up as they're driving. Yeah, I think they must have figured out and like said, no, actually this giant group is not going to be staying on.
Maybe like the person who told you the time was like, damn man, I told her we were getting in at this time, and now that lovely lady that came to me with trusting openness and I gave her false information is now standing out with her group. I must stop this boat.
I think he probably giggled and thought, ha ha.
Arrived on time. Like I should have known. The Greeks never arrive on time. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that story with us, Emma. That is hilarious. I mean, I know that I personally have also got a few, ferries wrong, maybe the odd express train when you're not supposed to be on the express train. I know that Brandon and Matt know what I'm talking about. But yeah, thank you, Emma. That was brave of you to share. But yeah.
So I also have a story, but it's nothing to do with transport or leaving your groups anywhere. It's more of a kind of embarrassing situation more than a mishap. And this took place in Munich I think it was the Achat Hotel. And as many of you will know, in a lot of these German hotels, they tend to have saunas in the basement. And this is always a feature that very rarely gets used by our passengers, because you get to hotels, you're so tired, it's been a long day, you have dinner, but I always kind of casually mention it because it's always good to allow people to experience a bit more of the hotels, and so just to make them seem a bit nicer. So we pull into the chat. It's very late anyway, and I'm going to say, hey guys, this is the hotel. This is how the lifts work. This is the Wi-Fi, blah, blah, blah. And very casually, by the way, there's a sauna in the basement. Thinking no one's going to go. I've said it just because it's good to say, and that's it. So we go in, we've had dinner, everyone goes to their rooms. I'm lying in my room and I'm like, do you know what? I've got like a little bit of energy and I'm going to go down to the sauna. And I thought, you know, it's going to be lovely. It's probably just going to be me down there. And so I take the lift down, I go down. And as a lot of you know, in German saunas, there is no swimwear allowed. So you have to be naked. You can take a towel in with you to sit on, but you must be in the nude. They believe that swimsuits are unhygienic. Regardless of whether you've watched it before, for whatever the reason is. And so I've gone down there, and for me, as maybe some of you will remember from the first episode of On the Road to Matt's story, nudity is something that I am not worried about. And so I've gone in there. There's like an old German couple. There's always an old German couple who've probably been sitting in there for 2 years, stewing slowly. And so I give them a little hello, and I go in, I get naked, I sit in the sauna with them. They're fine, I'm fine. I close my eyes, relaxing, and have a good time. Get to that point where I'm very hot. I'm like, okay, sauna experience is done now. Let's get out. So I open the sauna door, and in front of me, there are just 8 of my passengers just standing there in the sauna waiting room, and I am butt naked. I am full frontal. My towel isn't in my hand. It's hanging on the radiator somewhere further over in the room. I'm standing there. Everything is dangling in between, and I just freeze. And in my mind, suddenly I'm like, no passenger ever goes to the sauna. I was like, did I even forgot that I even told them about it? And in this like kind of rabbit in headlights moment, I'm looking at them, they're looking at me, their mouths are on the floor, and they're trying to look anywhere but my naked body. And so I just say, good evening, and then casually walk over, get my towel, wrap it around me, and just act as if it's completely normal, as if not a strange, because in some sense it is completely normal. We're in a sauna, we're in Germany, you're going to be
Welcome
naked.
to Germany.
And then I just leave them, and they are still stood there. They're still stood there by the door, just like rigid, like, oh my God, we've just seen Luke naked.
Anyone who's ever been to the park in Munich will know that there's a few characters that like to flash their bits.
Yes, yeah. Germany's known for its nudists, its naturists. And so I then went back upstairs. But it was at that moment that I realized that from now on, no matter how unlikely you believe that passengers are going to take these little bits of information and run with them, I always assume they're going to be everywhere now, even if it is.
Luke, the big question, Luke.
Yeah.
Did they write a nice review? Like, did they mark you down?
They did.
Like it was value for money. That's all.
Yeah, they left good reviews. We had a good laugh about it. It was a group, like they're a bit of a younger group, and they were like full of banter. They were funny guys, and again, I don't believe there's a situation you can be in as long as you're not kind of nice, polite, and a little bit good humored about it. That isn't going to be okay. And so there was a lot of banter about it the next day. I told the story on the coach as well. Like I was just very open about it, as I am with most things. And it kind of tied in with the whole talking about how much the Germans love to be naked and stuff. And sometimes, you know, when visitors come, they like to embrace the Germans in all their glory, as some of you may have noticed with me last night. And so it was all good. No one complained. It was a very innocent mistake. I would like to also announce, though, that I don't always get naked on tours.
Twice.
Yeah, there is a little theme appearing with your stories, Luke.
Yeah, it's kind of a theme that appears in my life generally.
Oh no!
But one of the funny things I was thinking about these mishaps, like you guys were saying, a lot of them is on new tours generally, and I've got other mishaps as well, like where I've like lost people, wrong trains and stuff like that. But it's always tours that you're kind of maybe not so familiar with, and like we do often have tours that we are very familiar with. Like we all kind of specialize in certain tours, but it's when you're on a tour that maybe you're not always on, as some of you who travel with expat kind of more regular than others will know, that we cross over all tours. One day we're in Eastern Europe, Western Europe, we're in the UK, we're all over. And so this kind of ties into something that Vic was saying earlier. Some of you may have noticed recently that we've been sharing a lot of stuff on our pages about some of the kind of specialist tours that we do. And because one of the big questions that we get from a lot of passengers when we kind of talk about specialist tours and stuff is, can we come on tour with you in the regions that you specialize in? Maybe you've come on tour with us in another part of Europe. And so this has been quite a big bit of feedback from passengers, and expat recently have kind of listened to this feedback and decided to implement it to sort of give the people what they want.
That mean if I want to see you nude, Luke, I can book on your specific expat.
Yes, exactly. So if you want to see me naked, you're gonna.
You've got to specialize in a Germanic style tour.
Yeah, for sure.
Where
For
the
sure.
opportunity to be nude is more common.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Luke's got the UK tour, so maybe he's wearing his kilt and nothing underneath. It's a possibility.
Well,
I
yeah.
have
I
heard
mean,
about that. Yeah.
one of the questions you get when you're wearing a kilt in Scotland, especially if they hear you don't have a Scottish accent, is, are you a true Scot? And that means, are you wearing anything under your kilt? And I am a true Scot. And I've actually had problems before where I've been wearing underwear with my kilt, and I do have Scottish heritage. I was part of my family's name. The Watson comes from the Watson clan. And a Scotsman has lifted up my kilt and looked underneath and become quite angry that I was wearing underwear. And so now I always rock it like a true Scot.
Didn't one of you have a passenger do that and they took a photo up your skirt?
Yeah,
Was it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Maybe that's a story for another time.
Yeah. So I think it's a really cool idea what they've done, and just allocating it. I mean, obviously they can't do it for all tours, and obviously all the tour leaders at Expat are awesome. Like, I love all the tour leaders, but I think it's a cool idea to give people that opportunity, so just to allocate maybe one or two tours
Yeah,
tourist
definitely.
regions, and also like so if someone's traveled with you before and wants to travel with you again, they can. Or you can also recommend. So if someone's traveled with one of us before and they really had a good time, they can mention it to their friends and say, perhaps
Again,
book on this
also,
tour.
a cool thing is that we are all so different. The way that we run our tours is completely different. So you get a different experience every time you travel. So if you found the person that you really like, then yeah. But again, it gives you an opportunity to try different things, try different ways of doing tours. It's a completely new experience. It's great. It's great.
You've chosen, or like that you guys have all chosen, are the ones that you love, and I think that comes across when you're on a tour. Like if you, I mean, we all love all of Europe, but if there's a certain region that we are most fond of, like, that comes across because you're so excited to be on that tour and deliver that tour, and that really shines through. So it is kind of like kind of next level if you like book on those specific ones that we've chosen.
Yeah, and it just gives everyone another option. So you can either just book like normal, or you can say, hey, I want to do that tour with you, and you get in there and you book it. And I know for sure I want to go on a tour with every single one of you guys, and I hope I get to.
Yeah, 100%. It might be too good though, you know.
There might be too many naked saunas happening on.
Too much fun.
It'll be like that time in Turkey, Vic.
Yeah. Well, hey, I thought like this is something we could talk a bit more next week. Because I think next week's question is going to be, what are our favourite tours to lead? Isn't it?
Oh yes, that's a good idea.
So I think we could probably go a bit more into that next week. When we're gonna, I think, Vic, did you say you've got another guest coming next week as well?
Oh yeah. So we're going to be bringing along other tour leaders. So Emma will probably join us again, but we do have some other people who you guys will recognize their faces, I'm sure. So yeah, over the coming weeks, we'll try and get as many other expat tour leaders on our chats as possible. I mean, we could have a full screen of like 20 of us, but I don't know if anyone get it.
It's cool because we are a big family, and we want you to meet our family as well. So we want to get as many people onto this chat as we can. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
For sure.
And that makes me really want to meet up with you guys, not virtually.
Yeah. On that, guys, though, I think that we might have to leave some of that for next week.
Okay, all right. Wow, Luke wrapping up for a change. That's okay. Has he frozen?
No, he hasn't.
Yes, he has.
Oh my God. Okay, all right, guys. Let's let's say
Wait.
goodbye,
He's,
and
he's reached his time.
we'll catch
Oh
you.
no, my
Oh, look,
something's
you,
gone wrong with my laptop.
you're
I
frozen. Anyway, yeah, guys. So we're gonna say goodbye for this week, but please, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and put in the bottom comments about any funny stories and mishaps that you've had on your tours that maybe your tour leader's done or that you've done, or yeah, we'd love to hear about them. We've exposed our secrets, so yeah. Oh, there's Luke. Oh,
don't know.
Luke's
Hey,
back.
how we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, you're back just in time to say goodbye. Yeah.
Wonderful. Peace out.
All right. So bye from New
Bye.
Zealand.
Bye from South Africa.
Bye from Gold Coast, Australia.
Bye
And
from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks for having me.
Bye from London. Where the
Okay.
internet's rubbish.
Bye, guys.